I welcome you all to this book reading session where we are reading the most beautiful book, The Legend of the Goddess. And we are going on the second verse, the Tempress.
ताम आवह जात वेदो लक्ष्मीमन्पगामिनीं यस्यं हृण्यं विन्देयं गामश्वं पुरुषानहम्.
Resume the churning, Vishnu heralded. Indra and Bali looked in the direction of their gurus, who wasted not a moment to nod in approval. The Devas and Asurs carried on with the task. Another female form emerged from the ocean. We don't care who she is or what she wants, the Asurs said to their guru Shukracharya. We don't even care what she looks like. All we know is that she is coming with us now. This was Varuni, the seductress maiden who represented sloth and inebriation. The Asurs were delighted to see her, and they were determined not to let the Devas or Vishnu have her. Varuni consented to be with the Asurs, and their king Bali was only to be pleased. About time they got someone beautiful too, they thought. The Asurs surrounded her. Pay attention, you goofballs, Shukracharya chastised them. You are here for the elixir of immortality. Any moment now, get back to the churning. As the efforts continued, the marvelous serene figure rose from the depths. Most spectacular, this was Dhanvantri, the divine physician. Strong and stout, of a broad chest, he looked like the alpha lion. His polished ear lobes, made from pearls, matched the radiance of his form. He donned yellow garments, his hair was well oiled, and his presence bore the promise of rejuvenation and good health. His wrists were decorated with bangles as he cradled and chalice filled with the brim with nectar in his long shapely hands, each finger sporting a precious spring. The scuffle had turned into a full-on riot now. Dhanvantri was standing in the corner at his wits' end because the mighty Asurs had snatched the chalice of nectar from his hands and they had declared that they were going to have it first. Dhanvantri, Indra, the sages and the Devas rushed to the Vishnu and pleaded him for his immediate intervention. This will be the end of the universe. Or O Purushottam, they said to Vishnu, please do something. Before Dhanvantri could bring it to you, the Asurs got it away. Poof, the Vishnu was gone. This led to a bit of confusion as no one expected Narayan to disappear right when they needed them the most. What's that? Someone shouted, pointing towards the site of the churning. Who's that? Another said. There was a glorious form emerging from the ocean. The Devas forgot all about the missing Vishnu. This was a beautiful woman, a spectacle, a marvel. They had thought that the churning was all but over, and yet outwalked the most magnificent beauty. Pick up your jaws off the floor and close your mouths, Brihaspati said to the Devas. This must be some play of Vishnu. Stop being foolish. You cannot trust the Devas, she consoled, moving towards Bali. Will you be mine? Bali said. I can do anything for you. Bali asked her to take the vessel and carry out the distribution. And so one of the Asuras, Swabhanu, quietly escaped and sat amongst the Devas between the sun and the moon. Brihaspati whispered to Indra, solving the mystery. This seductress is Vishnu, he said. This is his Mohini avatar. But remain quiet. The finest temperess Mohini walked slightly bent, captivating the imagination of the Asuras with every step. She had not only extracted a promise out of them not to question her, but simultaneously all their senses too. They sat in their line like statues, watching her as she took from what honeyed words every time it was their turn to have that nectar, instead giving the devas their real elixir. The asuras knew something was not right. They felt it in their bones, but they only woke up to cruel reality when Vishnu discovered that the asur was cunningly sitting there and got a sip by sitting in the row with the devas. In a flash, Mohini turned into Vishnu. The eyes that were doe-like a moment ago were glowing with embers now, and he lodged his discus on Swabhanu's neck, beheading him. He continued to live as Rahu Ketu, as he had already consumed the nectar. The devas fought the asuras and won, but for now Narayan was back in Vaikuntha. With the Divine Mother seated on the throne, Vishnu imparted the second verse of Sri Suktam to both Kardama and Chiklita as they made fire offerings in the yajna. These sages are acknowledged as the seers of this verse that contains one mantra. They chanted in unison. At Vishnu's instructions, Chiklita and Kardama completed Purushcharna, the rites of the invocation, for the first two verses of Sri Suktam, and individually for each of the 8 mantras contained in those verses. The entire process took 3 years, at the end of which having tasted the bliss of awakened mantras. So, what is your command now? The sons asked. You must go to who else but the greatest yogi, Shiva? Narayan said, as a smile escaped his smile. Oh, and don't you go empty-handed. Approach him with utmost humility like you would go to a guru. But it is really that important to drop in on Shiva? Chiklita said. This hymn is the sonic form of our mother. Can we not just remain in our Sanidhya company and invoke the verses? Vishnu replied in negative. He urged him not to violate Vedic protocol. Chiklita sought his forgiveness and readily agreed to embark on the journey that would have far-reached consequences for him. With that, Vishnu sent them on a mission to understand the nuances of Sri Suktam and to invoke its next verse if Shiva so willed it. Bolo Sri Hari Bhagwan ki Jai.